दीपं समर्पयामि श्री गणेशाय नमः। गृहान्मङ्गलं दीपं घृतवर्ति समन्वितं दीपं ज्ञानपदं देव रुद्रप्रियं नमोस्तुते। स्वप्रकाशो महान् दीपः सर्वत्र तिमिरापः सर्वाह्यभयन्तरं ज्योतिः दीपोऽयं प्रतिगृह्यताम्। ॐ गन्धं समर्पयामि श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ गङ्गणपतये नमः। ॐ धूपं समर्पयामि श्री गणेशाय नमः। दशाङ्गं गुगुलं धूपं सुगन्धिं सुमनोहरम् उमासुत नमस्तुभ्यं गृहान् वरदो भव। ॐ सुमुखश्चैकदन्तश्च कपिलो गजकर्णकः लम्बोदरश्च विकटो विघ्ननाशो विनायकः धूम्रकेतुर्घ्नाध्यक्षो बालचन्द्रो गजाननः। द्वादशैतानि नामानि यत्पठिच्छृणुयादपि विद्यारम्भे विवाहे च प्रवेशे निर्गमे तथा सङ्ग्रमे सङ्कटे चैव विघ्नस्तस्य न जायते। विघ्नवालिकुठाराय श्रीगणाधिपतये नमः। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ अविघ्नं कुर्मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। लभस्तेषां जयस्तेषां कुटस्तेषां पराजयः येषमिन्दी वरश्यामो हृदयस्थो जनार्दनः। ॐ श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ पुष्पं समर्पयामि श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे प्रियाणां त्वा प्रियपतिगुं हवामहे विहीनां त्वा निधिपतिगुं हवामहे। वसो मम आहं जानि गर्भधमा त्वमजासि गर्भधम्। ॐ पुष्पं समर्पयामि श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ नैवेद्यं समर्पयामि श्री गणेशाय नमः। प्राणाय स्वाहा अपानाय स्वाहा ध्यानाय स्वाहा उदानाय स्वाहा समानाय स्वाहा। ॐ नैवेद्यं समर्पयामि श्री गणेशाय नमः। जय गणेश जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। एक दंत दयावंत चार भुजाधारी, मस्तक सिंदूर मोहे उसकी सवारी। एक दंत दयावंत चार भुजाधारी, मस्तक सिंदूर मोहे मूस की सवारी। पान चढ़े फूल चढ़े और चढ़े मेवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। जय गणेश गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। अंधन को आँख देत कोड़िन को काया, भांजन को पुत्र देत निर्धन को माया। अंधन को आँख देत कोड़िन को काया, भांजन को पुत्र देत निर्धन को माया। लड़वन को भोग लगे संत करे सेवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। जय गणेश गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। इनन की लाज रखो बसुतावारी, कामना को पूरा करो जौन बलिहारी। दीनन की लाज रखो शम सुतावारी, कामना को पूरा करो जौन बलिहारी। हार चढ़े फूल चढ़े और चढ़े मेवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। गणपति बाप्पा मंगल मूर्ति। ओम त्र्यंबकं यजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम्, उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। 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 लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु। उपचारे समस्तैस्तु यन्मया पूजनं कृतं तत्सर्वपूर्णतां याते अपराधं क्षमस्व मे। जय श्री गणेशाय नमः। जय श्री हनुमान जी की जय। जय 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 हनुमान जी। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। सुमुखश्चैकदन्तश्च कपिलो गजकर्णकः लम्बोदरश्च विकटो विघ्ननाशो विनायकः धूम्रकेतुर्घ्नाध्यक्षो बालचन्द्रो गजाननः द्वादशैतानि नामानि यत्पठिच्छृणुयादपि विद्यारम्भे विवाहे च प्रवेशे निर्गमे तथा सङ्ग्रमे सङ्कते चैव विघ्नस्तस्य न जायते। विघ्नवालिकुठाराय श्रीगणाधिपतये नमः। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ अविघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। लभस्तेषां जयस्तेषां कुटस्थेषां पराजयः येषमिन्दिवरश्यामो हृदयस्थो जनार्दनः। ॐ गन्धं समर्पयामि श्री हनुमते नमः। पवन तनय संकट हरण मंगलमूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसो सुरभूप। ओम धूपम समर्पयामि श्री हनुमते नमः। अतुलित बलधामं हेमशैलाभदेहं धनुजवन कृशानुं ज्ञानिनामग्रिगण्यं सकलगुणनिधानं वानराणामधीशं रघुपतिप्रियभक्तं वातजातं नमामि। ओम दीपम समर्पयामि श्री हनुमते नमः। मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि। उल्लङ्घ्य सिन्धो सलिलं सलीलं यः शोकवहिनं जनकात्मजायः आदाय तेनैव ददाह लङ्का नमामि तं प्राञ्जलिराञ्जनेयम्। ॐ ॐ ॐ ओम आंजनेयाय विद्महे महाबालाय धीमहि तन्नो हनुमान प्रचोदयात्। 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 ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे प्रियाणां त्वा प्रियपतिगुं हवामहे निधीनां त्वा निधिपतिगुं हवामहे वसो मम आहं जानि गर्भधमा त्वमजासि गर्भधम्। ओम श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ओम श्री सीतारामाय नमः। ओम रामाय रामभद्राय रामचंद्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतय पतये नमः। ओम रामाय रामभद्राय रामचंद्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतय पतये नमः। ओम रामाय रामभद्राय रामचंद्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतय पतये नमः। ओम रामाय रामभद्राय रामचंद्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतय पतये नमः। ओम रामाय रामभद्राय रामचंद्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतय पतये नमः। ओम रामाय रामभद्राय रामचंद्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतय पतये नमः। ओम आंजनेयाय विद्महे महाबालाय धीमहि तन्नो हनुमान प्रचोदयात्। 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 ओम पुष्पम समर्पयामि श्री हनुमते नमः। पवन तनय संकट हरण मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसौ सुरभूप। ओम पुष्पम समर्पयामि श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम गंगणपतये नमः। ओम पुष्पम समर्पयामि श्री गुरवे नमः। नमामि शमीशान निर्वाण रूपम विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्म वेद स्वरूपम अजं निर्गुणं निर्विकल्पं निरीहं चिदाकारमाकाश वासं भजेऽहम्। ओम पुष्पं समर्पयामि श्री सीतारामाय नमः। शान्ताकारं भुजगशयनं पद्मनाभं सुरेशं विश्वाधारं गगनसदृशं मेघवर्णं शुभांगं लक्ष्मीकान्तं कमलनयनं योगभिर्ध्यानगम्यं वन्दे विष्णुभवभयहरं सर्वलोकैकनाथम्। ओम नैवेद्यं समर्पयामि श्री हनुमते नमः। प्राणाय स्वाहा अपानाय स्वाहा व्यानाय स्वाहा उदानाय स्वाहा समानाय स्वाहा। ओम नैवेद्यं समर्पयामि श्री हनुमते नमः।
सुदिलाए, शंकराचार्य विद्या सुदिलाए, लंक सकोट समुद्र सिखाए, जात पवन सुत भार न लाए, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की, दुष्ट दलन रघुनाथ कला की, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की। चार्य सुर सब मारे, चार्य सुर सब मारे, सीताराम जी के काज संवारे, सीताराम जी के काज संवारे, लक्ष्मण मूर्ति परे धरनी में, आन संजीवन प्राण उबारे, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की, दुष्टदलन रघुनाथ कला की, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की। पैती पताल तोरियम कातर, पैती पताल तोरियम कातर, अहि रावण के भुजा उकारे, अहि रावण के भुजा उकारे, भाई भुजा असुर संहारे, दाहिने भुजा सब संत उपारे, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की, दुष्ट दलन रघुनाथ कला की, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की। सुर नर मुनि जनारति उतारे, सुर नर मुनि जनारति उतारे, जय 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 हनुमान जी उचारे, जय 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 हनुमान जी उचारे, कंचन तारक पूर की बाती, आरती करत अंजनी माई, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की, दुष्ट दलन रघुनाथ कला की, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की। हनुमान जी की आरती गावे, तो हनुमान जी की आरती गावे, वैसी वैकुंठ अमर पद पावे, वैसी वैकुंठ अमर पद पावे, जो हनुमान जी की आरती गावे, जो हनुमान जी की आरती गावे, वैसी वैकुंठ अमर पद पावे, वैसी वैकुंठ अमर पद पावे, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की, दुष्ट दलन रघुनाथ कला की, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की, दुष्ट दलन रघुनाथ कला की, आरती की जय हनुमान लला की।
आरती श्री बजरंगबली की
जय,
पवन सुत हनुमान की
जय जय सीताराम।
ओम त्र्यंबकं यजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। ओम त्र्यंबकं यजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। ओम त्र्यंबकं यजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। ओम त्र्यंबकं यजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् Urvarukamiva bandhanan mrityormukshiyamamritat. Loka samastha sukhino bhavantu. उपचारे समस्तेस्तु यन्मया पूजनं कृतं तत्सर्व पूर्णतां याति यापराधं क्षमस्व मे. जय श्री हनुमान जी की जय.
Samaya vibhakshadiyo tab Tiyahu loka bhayo andiyaro Sahi sutra sabhayo jagakoya Sankarta kahu so jatana taro Devana ani kari vinati tab Chade diyo ravi kashta nivaro वो नहीं जानता है जग में कभी संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो पावे की त्रास कपि सब सगिरी नाथ महाप्रभु पंथ निहारो चौकी महामुनि सापदियो तब चाहिए कौन विचार विचारो द्विज रूप लिवाय महाप्रभु सो तुम दास के शोक निवारो को नहीं जानत है जग में कपि संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो अंगद के संग लेन गए सिया कैच कपि सया वैन उचारो जीवत ना बची हम सोजू बिना सुधी लाई पगुदारो हेरित के तट सिंधु सब तब लाय सिया सुधी प्राण उबारो तो नहीं जानत है जग में कपि संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो रावण निवारो समय हनुमान महाप्रभु जय महाराजनी चरम मारो चात सिया अशोक सोआगी सिद्धे प्रभु मुद्रिक शोक निवारो को नहीं जानत है जग में कपि संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो आन लग्यो और लक्ष्मण के तब प्राण तजे सुत रावण मारो गृह वैद्य सुषेण समेत तप गिरि द्रोण सुवीर उपारो आनि संजीवन हाथ दई तब लक्ष्मण के तुम प्राण उबारो को नहीं जानता है जग में कभी संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो
रावण जुद अजान की हो तब नाग के पास सब सिर डारो श्री रघुनाथ समेत सब दल मोह भयो यह संकट बारो अनेक के सतम हनुमान जो बंधन काटी सूत्रास निवारो को नहीं जानता है जग में कभी संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो
संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो
बंधु समेत जब अहि रावण लय रघुनाथ पताल सिधारो देवी ही पूजी बलि विधि सो बलि देव सब मिले मंत्र विचारो जय सहाय भयो तब ही रावण सैन्य समेत संहारो को नहीं जानता है जग में कभी संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो
संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो
राज किए बर देवन के तुम वीर
महाप्रभु देगी विचारो कौन सो संकट मोर गरीब को जो तुम सो नहीं जाते है तारो देगी हरो हनुमान महाप्रभु जो कछु संकट होए हमारो को नहीं जानता है जग में कभी संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो संकट मोचन नाम तिहारो लाल देह लाली लसे अरुधरि लाल लंगूर वज्र देह दान बदन जय 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 कपीसूर जय 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 सीताराम।
We'll sing the Hanuman Chalisa.
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज
निज मन मुकुर सुधारि वरणो रघुबर विमल यशो जो दायक फलचारि बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरा पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देव मोहि हरहु कलेश विकार जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीश तिहु लोक उजागर राम दूत अतुलित बल धाम अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नाम महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमत निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन बरन विराज सुवेशा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केशा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज संवारे लाय संजीवन लखन जियारे श्री रघुवीर रशिउर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरताई सम भाई, सहस बदन तुमरो यश गावे, अस कही श्रीपति कंठ लगावे। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीषा, नारद शारद सहिताहीशा, यम कुबेर दिगपाल जहांते, कवि कोविद कहि सकै कहांते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा, राम मिलाय राज पर दीन्हा। तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। युग सहस्र योजन पर भानु, लील्योताहि मधुर बल जानु। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि, चल दिलांगी गए अचरज नाहि। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे। सब सुख लाए तुम्हारी शरणा, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज संहारो आपे, तीनों लोक हांकते कापे। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासै रोग हरे सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, जिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों युग प्रताप तुम्हारा, है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता, असबर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुपति पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्तन डरहि, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करहि। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। यह शत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूटहि बंदी महासुख होई। जो या पर हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साकी गौरीशा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, की जय नाथ हृदय महडेरा।
पवन
तनय संकट हरण, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसौ सुरभूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। उमापति महादेव की जय, रमापति रामचंद्र की जय। सब संतों की जय, सब भक्तों की जय, सब गुरुदेवों की जय।
जय जय सीता। Sita Ram.
We'll sing Ramchandra Ashtakam now on page 12 and 13.
Karo data paramasukada pavanatanu Nunindre yogindre yatipati surendre hanumata Sada saidya purno janakatanayanga suraguru Ramanato Ramo Ramatu Mama Chitte Tu Satatam Mukundo Govindo Janakatanaya Lalita Pada Padam Prapta Yasya Dhamatula Bhava Chapi Shabari Kiratito Gamyo Vimala Dishanir Veda Vachasa Ramanato Ramo Ramatu Mama Chitte Tu Satatam Paradisho Disha Sura Naravaranam Raghupati Kiriti Keyuri Kanakakatisha Shovitavapu Samasina Pite Ravishatanide Shanta Manaso Ramanato Ramo Ramatu Mama Chitte Tu Satatam Varinya Sharanya Kapipati Sakaschanta Viduro Dalate Kashmiro Ruchiragati Banga Shashimukha Narakaro Ramo Yatipati Tanu Samsriti Haro Ramanato Ramo Ramatu Mama Chitte Tu Satatam Virupaksha Kashyam Upadishati Yannama Shivadam Sahasram Yannam Patati Girija Pratyusha Sivai Swaloke Gayanti Shvara Vidimukha Yasya Charitam Ramanato Ramo Ramatu Mama Chitte Tu Satatam Dhiro dhiro surakula bhavascha surara Paratma sarvagyo narasura kirta suyasha Ahalya shapagnam sharakara riju kaushika sako Ramanato Ramo Ramatu Mama Chitte Tu Satatam Rishikesha Shauri Dharani Darashai Madhuripu Upendro Vaikunto Gajaripu Darastushta Manasa Validvamsi Viro Dasharata Suto Niti Nipuno Ramanato Ramo Ramatu Mama Chitte Tu Satatam Kavi Saumitri Jakapatam Nigagati Vanacharo Pranashwagi Tanto Dharani Varaharta Suranuta Amani Managyo Nikila Jana Pujo Hridishayo Ramanato Ramo Ramatu Mama Chitte Tu Satatam Ramanato Ramo Ramatu Mama Chitte Tu Satatam Ramanato Ramo Ramatu Mama Chitte Tu Satatam
Jai Shri Ramachandra ki
Jai.
We'll now do the healing mantra. We'll do 11 rounds of the healing mantra. It's available on the last page of the book. As we do the healing mantra, as far as possible, we hold the concentration in our heart center and for well wishes for everyone around the world during these difficult times.
both far and near. We'll begin with one long Om.
सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव वन्दनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् स्वाहा भुवः भुः ॐ सः झुं हौं ॐ हौं जुं सः ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव वन्दनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् स्वाहा भुवः भुः ॐ सः झुं हौं ॐ हौं जुं सः ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव वन्दनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् स्वाहा भुवः भुः ॐ सः झुं हौं ॐ हौं जुं सः ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव वन्दनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् स्वाहा भुवः भुः ॐ सः झुं हौं ॐ हौं जुं सः ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव वन्दनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् स्वाहा भुवः भुः ॐ सः झुं हौं जुं सः ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव वन्दनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् स्वाहा भुवः भुः ॐ सः झुं हौं हौं जुं सः ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव वन्दनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् स्वाहा भुवः भुः ॐ सः झुं हौं ॐ हौं जुं सः ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव वन्दनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् स्वाहा भुवः भुः ॐ सः झुं हौं ॐ हौं जुं सः ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव वन्दनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् स्वाहा भुवः भुः ॐ सः झुं हौं ॐ Jung Saha Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Vandhanan Mrityormukshiyamamritat Swaha Bhuvaha Bhuom Saha Jung Haum Om Om Haum Jung Saha Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Vandhanan Mrityormukshiyamamritat Swaha Bhuvaha Bhuom Saha Jung Haum
And that concludes the Arati ceremony for tonight. And in a few minutes, Janardhan ji will talk about the importance of Guru Purnima and to shed some light on that for all of us, as tomorrow is Guru Purnima and we all are prepared for the yagna in the morning. Om. Yeah. Folks are welcome to come up for tilak and darshan.
Even if you're sitting in the back of the Namaste, pranams, and welcome to all of you joining us from either here on site at Sankat Mochan Hanuman Temple, Mount Madonna Center, or in various places of the world. I know some of you join us from across the globe, and we had a very unusual few days recent, and I was really struck by the way it affected me. Just that our internet went out, we had some problems, and we had that disconnection for a little while of people not being able to be here with us in our practice of the routine Arati and so forth. And the first evening that occurred, that I was doing Arati, I felt so bad because I felt like I didn't have any way to even tell anybody that, no, we won't be there tonight, you won't be able to join tonight, or we... And it just had such an interesting effect on me. And gladly, though, a team of people came together and got our internet back up and running and so forth. And we're grateful to be able to have you with us again and sharing in this opportunity of darshan of Hanumanji and coming together in the spirit of satsang, as we always do. So, this is a very special time of the year for us with Guru Purnima. So we're going to take a few minutes tonight, it won't take too long, maybe 20-30 minutes or so, to talk a little bit about the process of Guru Purnima, the ceremony that we do, and just a little bit about the history of it here at Mount Madonna Center with our Guru, Baba Haridas. So, first of all, interesting thing in terms of the evolution of this particular location, the site where we do our practice and honor this tradition of puja and yajna and so forth. When we first got this property in 1978, Babaji came to the property and he scoured the whole site. And as we had gotten permission, we were going to be moving on to it. And we went all over the property. And when he went around, it was like moving around on this land with this being who was like a mix of a deer and a human, and he was so enlivened. He was so awake in a different way than people usually are. And I was a little used to him. I'd been around Babaji then for 3 or 4 years. But anyway, it was really a remarkable experience to me, because I had also been invited by the board and Babaji, my wife and I, to come and be part of the original group moving on site here. So I was very just enchanted with the opportunity, and just wonderstruck in a lot of ways at what was going to happen. But going around on that day with him, he went all over the property and he was seeing everything. And you could tell that he was seeing things at different levels than we were. And it speaks to this principle of vastu, which is what the architecture, the scriptures, Vastu Shastras, that deal with the architecture of temples and how the land, how the earth is this entity which is basically spirit, and it has these particular qualities and energies that are present and ready to emerge depending on how they're noticed, how they can be awakened and coaxed up to be more present in a more full way. So the Shastras anyway, they speak to the way the earth is really supportive of different energies. And when we came by this little knoll, and this was just a simple little knoll at that time, and Babaji looked around and he saw it was obvious he saw the Native American grinding rocks on each side here, and he kind of motioned like that and then was off. And we kept going and we went up and around and so forth. And he saw everything, as I say, and just was really it was a beautiful thing to watch. And then he identified this was going to be our yagya site, our place for ceremony. And furthermore, he had already chosen a date that my wife and I were going to get married, which was March 21st. We moved on the property March 3rd. This was a little bit before that. And so now we were seeing, so this is where ceremony will be. So nevertheless, what happened there was this magical thing, and we came out here, we did this first ceremony, we got ready for it, just as we did over these last couple of days. And we created a simple earthen altar. This Vedi, I'll speak to it in a little bit more. But we made a simple little earthen altar, and we got ready to do yagya. And back in that time, there wasn't cell phones and you weren't tracking weather that was all over the globe and going, oh yeah, so it's going to be raining. But anyway, on that particular day, storms came in and it hailed and then it rained like crazy. And we had to move everything inside. Long story short, we moved inside and we set up, did yagya inside. Shortly after that, Babaji one day wrote, when I was passing through the room in the main building there, and he was meeting with some people. And this was about 3 months after we'd moved here. And he wrote on his board, do you want to be Pujari for Hanuman Temple? And I said, if you think that's a good idea, yeah. And he smiled and nodded. And he was writing in very small letters, so I knew this was whispering. I wasn't supposed to read it out loud. So I just, And then I said, well, what does it mean? And he said, you do puja and put color on the deity, Hanuman deity and so forth. And I said, well, yes, if you think that's a good idea. And he smiled and nodded. And meanwhile, he was having darshan with this group of people, and I was wondering, why is this conversation happening right now? It was kind of curious to me. So, but, anyway, and then I said, where? Where is this going to be? I thought he's shipping me out already, maybe, sending me somewhere. And he goes, here, So I said, well, yes, that'd be, yeah, if you think that's a good idea. And he smiles and nods again. So I said, so should I go back to work now? And he nodded and smiled. So I ran off. Then he brought all these, the next time he came to the property, he brought this little footlocker trunk with dhoti, kurta, shawl, puja equipages, notebooks, etc. And he began training. And every once in a while we would ask him, so we're going to build the temple, Babaji? And he would smile and go, you have many things to do, and you have to do this. He was very, very practical. But slowly we began to work on this site and build it and develop it into this, what it has become, as I mentioned about this energy of Vastu. So he saw what was here. Now, 25 years went by where we sat out here with Babaji and we did ceremony. We did these very, very deep practices, Vedic yagya ceremonies and so forth, with him there to guide it energetically, in his silence, watching everything. And, you knew when something had, wasn't quite right, he might, a little motion or something. But he sat here and he developed and built this energy from this subtle form, this causal form really is what Vastu is all about, saying this was here in causal form, meaning a samskaric form, a seed form. And it had to be kind of awakened and kindled by the awareness that was brought to it, of recognizing it. Now, someone of Babaji's consciousness level, he could see things in such a deep way. So he saw it, and then he began to honor it and create the context that would help it all to emerge, to, so to speak, rise up, bring up that energy. So for years, we gathered here as a sangha, as a satsang with him, and did these beautiful ceremonies. And this has become now what it is, through his grace, through his blessing, through his teaching. So I'm forever grateful and honored, as I think all of us here at Mount Madonna Center, we are, to be able to hold this and this part of his teaching and legacy that he's provided. So something that is intended to be a very long arc of time that it develops in. So that was brought home to me in talking to some people who were at Ramana Maharshi ashram about that development of that ashram there in Tiruvannamalai, Arunachala, talking to one of the senior people there, and about that, and about because I learned that that man had been here at our temple and seen it, and he knew us, he recognized us from a visit here, and he was asking about Babaji and what we're doing here now. And I was telling him about things, and he was going, over a long arc of time, these things happen. And it takes just doing the duty, doing your duty, doing the practice, which is exactly what Babaji said. Just do your duty, everything will work out. In reality, there is no problem. Just do your duty, just do your practice. So he set out a practice here. Now, when we installed Hanumanji, it was in 2003. It was on his 80th birthday. That's traditionally a special time in the life of an elder to reach that age and that particular time for a saint of his quality and nature was something that he guided, that we would do the installation of Hanumanji on that day, on his 80th birthday, which is also Ram Navami, or the date, the lunar date for the birth of Lord Ram, the day. So Babaji was born on that date, and we established Hanumanji on that date, on that same lunar date that would honor Babaji's 80th birthday and also Lord Ram's birthday. So several things lined up there that were very, very special and that bring alive, what to me bring alive a potential, a very, very deep, powerful potential for this community, for this satsang, for any and all of us who want to gather here and keep bringing alive this energy. So, welcome. So, I have no idea where some of the conversation will go tonight. I don't want to sit and read through notes and whatnot, but I would like to just create a sense of how Babaji infused such a beautiful energy into just thousands and thousands of people who came into his life, came into connection with him, and here at Mount Madonna Center and at the temple now, there's that energy is continuing here. So, and it's our duty. There's a whole idea here of tirtha, so of a sacred site, a sacred place that becomes this special place that people come to who are seeking spiritual transformation. So this is what you can call a tirtha. Now, tirtha is a Sanskrit term, and it relates to and means a place for crossing over. So it's a place for where you try to seek transformation and cross over. Now, it has a very practical term and meaning also. It's a crossing over place like you might go to a river, and you need to go to the special location where you can go across. And you take the boat. You go to the boatman, and you're on pilgrimage. And you go, I'm going to the sacred site on the other side. So I come to this, and that sacred site is the tirtha, and the boatman is the one who helps to get you there. So who is the boatman? The boatman is Guru. So what is the river who's taking you across? It's that river of consciousness. It's ever flowing, really, taking you across to that other side, to that place of liberation, that possibility of liberation. So this sacred site then, like this, takes on a special significance that people can feel when they come to it, just as Babaji first recognized and acknowledged, and then began to say, okay, this is where we can make it rise up more potently and do our practice. So we owe an enormous debt of gratitude and commitment to these teachings. We are custodians here now to these beautiful teachings that Babaji brought to us and helped us. They're tools, spiritual tools, you can say, for helping us to get this transformation of consciousness, possibility of liberation. So one can never just imagine in some way the possibility of meeting a saint in your life. We seek it. Most of us, we're seeking it all the time, really. We don't know what we're maybe seeking. We just know there's something incredibly important that's missing, and that causes us to want to keep searching, keep looking, keep practicing. So when that comes about in our life, it's very, very important that we acknowledge it and give it full respect. Now, at one level, the one thing that's important to consider about Guru is the one who removes the darkness. The root words of it, Guru. Gu is the remover, and Ru, darkness. So it's the one who removes the darkness. And in reality, Guru is in your life all through your life, from your birth, all through until your death. So all the important and maybe not so important experiences that come to you that help to teach you and help to sharpen your discernment and your understanding they're really forms, you can say, of the teacher, of the Guru. So Babaji writes about one saint in one of his books, and who is said to have never had a visible Guru that people knew about. And this is in his Fire Without Fuel book, Sage Dattatreya. And he's asked, did you ever have Guru? And he said, well, yes. And he says 24 elements, the 24 tattvas of Samkhya. So all of these energies of creation are all ways that he was taught and saw the teachings of how consciousness manifests and creates what is fundamentally this place where spirit becomes nature, and then nature is forever surrendering to spirit. That process is ever going on. So Babaji taught us that in respect to the temple also. When one day he came to the temple when we were building it, and it was very rough on the inside at that time. And myself and one of the other young men who was working with me here, we were standing, and Babaji came along, and he stepped inside, and he looked around, and then he looked up in the ceiling, and then he wrote woman giving birth. And we looked in and looked up, and then turned to ask him, what, and he was gone. He was already headed off to go work somewhere. So afterward, we learned from him that he's saying that in the roof there is a Sri Yantra. It's like a mandala like this, but it's a Sri Yantra, three-dimensional. And it represents the supreme consciousness energy, the Divine Mother. So in this active, expressive form is what the Divine Mother consciousness is, as opposed to that Shiva energy, which is inactive consciousness. I'll speak to that in a moment with this yantra. But so in there is this dome, and there's a three-dimensional Sri Yantra. Sometime just look up and you'll see it's a pretty magnificent thing. Now, what is the temple doing? It's having this energy of the Divine Mother there, and then in the womb chamber, Hiranyagarbha is the golden womb. So this is what's called this womb chamber where Hanumanji is. So what the temple is representing is supreme consciousness as Divine Mother manifesting Hanumanji in her womb. Hanumanji is this manifestation of divinity, this particular manifestation in this temple. So this manifestation of consciousness in a particular form with qualities representative of Hanumanji, the perfect servant of God. So we learned from him in that this, what it's representing, again, is one of these places where spirit is manifesting nature, this particular quality of Hanuman, and nature is surrendering itself constantly to spirit. So the whole process that we do in holding ritual and ceremony in the temple is to go in and surrender again what is the nature principle that's activating us, any and all of us. So we offer the lamp, that fire that is animating our potential for sight, that's animating and lighting up our potential for awareness. So it's all in that lamp. And we're offering all these other ingredients in it. And we're surrendering it. So our sense of taste in these different food offerings, our sense of smell in the beautiful fragrances of either the flowers or the incense and so forth. All our sense of taste. So the ritual process there is this constant, just like sunrise, sunset, that you do that. You acknowledge that it all came from spirit. Everything is just this manifestation of spirit in unique forms. And it's constantly surrendering itself. There's always birth, growth, decay, death. That's the inescapable reality, the what is in reality. So how you set up to accept that in your life can possibly be through processes like these, ritual. So in our training with Babaji, that's what he brought to us in a full sense, how we can engage in that possibility, that striving, that potential for liberation by using these very, very ancient Vedic tools, ceremonies, rituals. So when you read in the scriptures about what is the essence of the teaching in the Veda, one scholar says the essential thing, if you could say in one word what is the teaching in the Veda, it's yajna, sacrifice. And there's great, beautiful poetry in the Vedas speaking about how the yajna ceremony is the chariot of the gods. It's this vast potential for sacrifice so that creation can happen. The deities surrendering themselves so that creation can happen. So it takes some very, very complex forms. There's many different ceremonies, and Babaji has trained us in a number of different ones, another number of different pujas, but they follow really the very same kind of principles. And as sacrifice, it speaks in the Vedas of saying that the sacrifice is a form of dismemberment of who you think you are, of who you imagine you are. That's what the Arati ceremony is about. When we go in, we surrender this idea of all of our mind-body complex. We surrender it. We say, this is all from you. I surrender it. I want to use it in service of you. So the ceremony is intended to do that. The yajna ceremony can be a very, very beautiful one. So that what you see here now, for those of you looking from afar or from nearby, is what's called the Vedi, where the yantra is in the middle here. And the Vedi is really like the heart of the yajna ceremony and the heart of the temple site. So frequently people would come up here after we'd had a yajna, and they would see ash and they would see things, and they would go, who was it? And think that, did we do a cremation here or something? No, not really. However, in reality, that's what we did. That is really what happens when you do ceremony. You're offering, in a symbolic way, the mind-body complex, the ego. Now, as I said, it's a rather involved, full ceremony that happens here. But what we do in the course of it is that with the yantra, this is representing the creation, the whole creation. This represents the creation of the whole macrocosm, the whole universe. And it represents, similarly, each of us individually. We are a yantra in ourselves. So, same energies are present. What is here is elsewhere. What is not here doesn't exist. That's from Tantra. Everything that can possibly be is within that orb, that energy of consciousness. And that is what is here, present. So the ceremony is aimed at teaching us how to really come to awareness of that. And we repeat it frequently as a way to try to really reinforce the teaching, because it's very easy to get kind of re-engaged fully in everything our ego wants, you know. So, but what you'll see tomorrow in the course of the ceremony is that we do, first of all, a puja. And puja means worship ceremony. So typically, puja is performed by a pujari, officiant, and is attended to. Several offers might be there as people who are participating in it. Kartas, those who are making offerings and so forth. Fasting is done beforehand as a way of purifying and preparing and so forth. And then coming to the ceremony with an intention to try to really connect to this that is both here and is in the heart. The real altar and the real process is going on in the heart. So as an important link that we want to try to establish and carry forward in it. So in the process of the yajna then, the puja happens first, and as we go through it, we offer many different ingredients. And the ingredients are all representative of our mind-body complex, our senses, our heart, our intellect, everything that we identify with in different ways, different equipages, we offer it. We offer. It's purified and we offer it. So it gets put either here into a fire that will eventually be built on it in the second part of the ritual, or it may get offered on here also before the fire is lit. But the whole altar and everything is this process of saying, okay, I offer my heart, I offer my mind, I offer my senses. And we go all through it using mantra and these different equipages. Now, the mantra is a very, very important element in this as one of the tools we use. Mantra is a sound form of consciousness. So the different mantras that are used they're not arbitrary sounds, but these are particular sound forms of a very specific kind of consciousness. It's so the sound, like just in the Christian teaching, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So the mantra tradition is the very same thing. The energy of the mantras are that they are sound forms of divine consciousness. And they're put together and structured in such a way that they kindle and continue to develop and awaken the spiritual energy in you. Also, they're combined with mudra, hand mudras, and intoning of different mantras together are done throughout the ceremony also. Mudra means to please, so it's said that the different mudras with the hands are said to be pleasing to the divine, the divinities within. So when you do the ceremony and chant the mantras and so forth, you are engaging, activating those subtle energies throughout the mind and body, and then offering them by way of the other equipages. So now the fire that's lit on here is first a little bit about the yantra itself. So the yantra, the root words of it, yam, which is to hold, and trana, or liberation. So the yantra is an instrument, it also means instrument, that holds the energies for liberation. So it holds the energy that, in manifesting, in awakening, brings liberation. So, and it's activated in subtle ways, so it's really like a gross form. As I said earlier, your body really is a yantra. So this is a gross form, and the subtle form of the yantra are the mantras that are present in it. In this case, we're seeing that this has a bindu to it, which is Om. So that's that little seed symbol there in the middle. So this is saying that from Om, this whole yantra emerged. Now this is called Ganapati Yantra that we always use for Guru Purnima. So Ganapati is Lord Ganeshji, so the Lord of the Ganas. So the Ganapati Yantra is for siddhi, for success. So Babaji always trained us to use this for Guru Purnima ceremony, for awakening this siddhi or power, this consciousness power. So the symbols in it are happening. There's two layers to this yantra, really. So there's this layer that you see in the colored sand and so forth, and there's a blue triangle in the bottom, toward the middle there. That's a Shiv triangle, it's called. So the Shiv triangle, that means that that's the energy of Shiv, and it's three different forms of consciousness, will, and matter, but it's all inactive. It's in a blue color, which means that it's formless, really. Just like the sky appears blue, but it's a vast expanse that is without form, really. It just is this infinite expanse. Similarly is that energy of Shiv consciousness. It's an infinite consciousness energy. But it's given this triad form, three sides, saying that it's consciousness, the energy of will, that's a samskara for there to be creation to manifest, and consciousness, will, and matter. So, or Gyan Shakti, energy of consciousness, Kriya Shakti, the energy of activity and form, and Icha Shakti, the energy of will, or that's like the samskara for potential for expansion. So, and then that has inherent in it this tension that brings about the active, expressive form of that consciousness, and that's the Divine Mother principle. So the Shakti principle, which is the downward pointing triangle, red triangle. So this is the same as that blue triangle of consciousness power that's Shiv, but inactive, and now it's in an active, expressive form as the Divine Mother. So the union of those two give rise to the whole creation. In this sense, it's shown that's a causal level, that Om, that very inner one, and then it's starting to be expressed outward through these two triangles. So it's these energies of consciousness, will, and matter, and then in an expressive form. And then it says eightfold nature. So the 8 petals that are around that are what are called the Ashtada Prakriti, or the nature in 8 different forms. And that's the 3 aspects of mind and 5 elements. So that is what all manifests all of creation. So it's shown on a yellow square, and that's showing, the yellow square is generally showing limitation and square shape like that. And then, but there's an active dynamic of it, and that's that red square underneath of it, that's that moving energy. So it's that these pure energies are in movement. They're in expression, in a way of expressing. So the Ganapati Yantra is then coupled with a mantra that we use when we light the fire. So having done the puja and the worship and so forth, then we will light the fire on it with a mantra that is invoking energy of consciousness into it. So everything that's put into fire becomes fire. So symbolically speaking, anything that we offer, if we offer ourselves to God, the fire, we become as God. So we surrender ourselves in that process. So you have to be ready for that. Now, so the fire is lit with a mantra, as I say, awakening that energy of consciousness. And then seed mixture is offered. Seed mixture that we offer is representing all of our potential activities. That represents the samskaras that impel us to action throughout life. So that cause our birth and our consequent experiences in life and our rebirth until we have resolved those karmas. So the karmas are not only infinite, but they are immortal. They last and last. Karmas always will exist, but it's the resolution of it for the individual is in surrendering and not being attached to what the activity is and its result. So everybody who's offering will be offering this seed mixture and repeating mantra with it. I'll say in a minute the mantra, but they offer the seed mixture and mantra, and they're saying in essence, they surrender these karmas that are impelling them to action in life. Whether it be good or bad action, it's all causing bondage if there's attachment to it. So we do 108 offerings with the seed mixture, and the 108 offerings are with, in this case, the Guru Gayatri mantra. Om Parbrahmane Vidmahe Gurudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Guru Prachodayat. Om Swaha. So, and Om Swaha, Swaha is the consort of God Agni. The fire is Agni, the God. So when we say at the end of the offering, Om Swaha, we offer to you. And it goes and turns into the fire and the smoke. And it's that smoke and that fragrant smoke that goes up that's carrying the mantras, the power, the prayer, the fragrances of all of the offerings and so forth. And that's what it said is feeding the gods. So the God, it's our duty, it says scripturally, to feed the gods. And you feed the gods by surrendering your nature, your lower nature, your higher nature, everything. Surrendering everything to God is what is feeding the gods. So that's the idea of this kind of mention in the scriptures of being that the ceremony is a form of surrendering everything that you are, really. So, and of identifying each thing and saying, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not that, and putting it in there. The very final offering is coconut. And coconut is offered with the mantra, and the coconut is representing the mind-body complex. So the ego, that's what we are identifying as who we are. So coconut, just as we have 3 eyes, 2 we used to see, 1 we stay mostly blind. The third eye, where is that? Where'd that go? Aren't I supposed to have some higher vision? Where is that? You know, so where everybody's struggling, really. You know, so but the coconut has 3 eyes also. So we take that and we open it up. We open up that third eye in the coconut. We empty out the milk, and we also minimally open the other 2 eyes, and we put ghee into it. And we offer it into the fire with a mantra. And the mantra is saying that the fire is God, the offerer is God, the offering implement is God, the action is God interacting with God. And for one who identifies and engages in their action with that awareness, there will be no bondage of karma. So you offer that final coconut as a way of trying to identify and offer that egoism that keeps us as separate and causes suffering for everyone, for all of us. So that's the final offering that we do there. And that's in essence what the whole ceremony is comprised of, along with, of course, it'll be more beautifully ornamented tomorrow as in its full form with offers and so forth. And you can see, those who are here, you can see that the site gets really quite decorated and ornamented to celebrate this special day for us. And another thing I want to point out is there's this, the mandala is made just for the yajnas. We do fresh clay on the Vedi, and so representing earth element, and then the colored sands are put in, and then once we build the fire, of course, it pretty much destroys a lot of it. But underneath of it is another yantra, and you can see it perhaps, but there's an important part of it that I like to highlight, and that's it. So there's also a blue triangle, big blue triangle in stone underneath, just like this one has. And you can just see the 3 corners, basically. And there's superimposed over it a red triangle, a big red triangle in stone. So it's again these energies, and this is like why it's the heart of the place, really. It's this place, this seed, this bindu, that's the energy that gives rise to and represents the pure consciousness energy in an inactive form, that Shiva energy, and the active expressive form of it, the goddess mother, goddess energy, the red triangle on top. So this is the heart of the Vedi site here. And it has one other very important element that is in many yantras, but you don't see it in the Ganapati Yantra, but it is inferred. But in this stone, you can see what are 4 gates. So the 4 sides. They're very important to me. I like to highlight them because, one, a lot of the ritual feels very, very esoteric and feels like, wow, you know, that's pretty intense. And it seems to take so much exposure to get really deeply connected into it, to understand the mantras and the different symbols and so forth that we're doing, because it's pretty intense, all of it, pretty complex. But what this is saying, these 4 gates, is that there are 4 doors to liberation. And the yantra is trying to also guide you into that, and the ceremony is. But this is something that everybody can understand and relate to. The 4 doors for liberation are really very practical expressions of our nature, of who we are. Dharma. Dharma is your duty. It is your duty in the most, let's say, in a more mundane, worldly sense. So what are your gifts? Babaji has asked thousands of times, how do I know what my dharma is? How do I know what my dharma is? And he wrote answers very patiently. But your dharma is, what is your special gift? Why am I here? What are the things that you're drawn to that are really uniquely beautiful in you? And that's your dharma, and it should be expressed. So tapping into it, finding it, and then using it as something that serves the greater good. That's yajna. When what we do is find out, what can I do that expresses my heart and my intention, my deepest intentions, positive in nature, that also benefits the larger whole. That's yajna. So it's a very simple thing in reality. Also, dharma has a deeper level. So the deeper level of our dharma is to identify with the self, with that which is really real, fundamental, and essential in you. And that's that deeper connection to what the heart of the yajna is there. So, birth, growth, decay, death. Understanding. Your dharma, you'll serve your community in whatever way you can. Birth, growth, decay, death. Be aware that's coming. And you surrender to that also. So, Arati. Arati is wealth. So what is your wealth? Ask yourself that. Can you answer what do you consider real wealth? So it's not, obviously, everybody would acknowledge, of course, it's not the person who has the most toys at the end of their life who's the wealthiest. It has nothing to do with that kind of a thing. There's something about feeling this essential essence, energy of love that you have in your heart for all of creation, and you feel it resonant back with you. So is that what wealth is? You have to ask yourself that question, really. It's something that is, but it's a door to liberation. This is a beautiful thing. So at one level, the Bhagavad Gita and the scriptures say, well, wealth can be a real gift when it's used to, let's say you build hospitals and you build roads and you do all these things that might benefit the poor and so forth. So all those things are where wealth can be used as something that really serves the greater good. So, but what you do with the wealth, and what is wealth? There's some beautiful stories. I won't get into them tonight because they take a little time, but they're really good stories that tell about really what wealth is, and that might kind of bend your mind when you get to the end of it and go, oh, wow, okay. So Dharma, similarly, has some beautiful stories that we won't go into tonight, but sometime I will try to take time and go through all of these and tell some of the stories that relate to it that we can identify with, I think. So Dharma, art, wealth, calm, desire. How is desire a gate of liberation? I remember when I met Babaji in the first couple of years, and I was very into asana, and I was very into pranayama, and I mean, I'd been practicing for a while, and very rajasic and energetic and so forth. And, Babaji, what can I do to help get better control of my desires? And I was waiting for, a list of asanas and do this and pranayama and so forth. He said, you have to experience your desire before you'll know what your real desire is. Sounds tricky. I experienced my desire. I thought isn't yoga trying to, are we trying to cut it off at the root or at the head or whatever, But so anyway, he sent me out of that meeting kind of, I didn't have a beard at that time really, but anyway, it was perplexing. But then when you get into it and you go, okay, what is it you really desire? You don't really know. All you know is that you're going to eat as much as you can of whatever that feels good. And in so many ways, whether it's taking in things through your eyes, prana, the energy that you use in your life, as soon as your eyes light on something, that beautiful deer over there eating, and you go, oh, wow. And then a whole thing goes on in your head, and you just experience this whole piece of your life through what your eyes just saw, and you used up all this prana. So all of our senses are like that. We smell something, and oh, wow. And then the mind is running, and I think I'm going to go get some nachos. That smells like nachos, or whatever it is. So you're constantly being chased by your desires. And you're constantly trying to feed yourself with desire, but it doesn't seem to ever go away, right? So then you start to go, okay, yeah. So again, there's some really beautiful tales that speak to that, but it's an important thing for us to all know that desire, what might be hobbling us and crippling us in so many ways, is also one of the gates to your liberation. So you can take that and take it to the bank. Deposit that one. Now, and then moksha, the fourth gate. So moksha is liberation. So liberation from what? Liberation, what does that mean? That's such a lofty idea. Of course it would be a gate for liberation, but it is liberation. But what is it? What is moksha? What is liberation? So liberation is from all these different false identifications that we have about who we are and that we get from these reinforcements from the outside. The whole thing is we get our whole orientation from how we're perceived out there and how someone's reflecting back to us. And that makes us feel good or it makes us devastated because, my God, I must have just, that person must really hate me or whatever it is. So all those different ways that we hobble ourselves from our true nature because we get lost in where we might get our sense of value, sense of self, sense of being from. So anyway, 4 gates to liberation. And that's what the yantra is basically providing here, so that the teaching is there and you can approach it more specifically by one of these unique aspects that you're more drawn to. But that they're universal, everyone has all of these. So that's kind of what I wanted to get to this evening. And I'm happy if people have any questions, I'm happy to answer if I can, or if people have other thoughts they want to share. But mainly this is an experience. It's about experience, Anything like this that we do is just like hearing about what's on the menu, all right? You're not going to get fed until you sit down and eat. So you deserve to get that mango and eat it, or whatever it is. To have that experience, you have to have that experience. You can't just read the menu and call it good. So the experience is there for you. You can join us here on site, you can join us virtually, participate in it, but identify and understand the whole thing is really what's going on in your heart that matters. It's an internal process that's always going on. Spirit manifesting nature, and nature surrendering to spirit. So, anyway, that's maybe enough for right now.
So all these stories you mentioned, beautiful stories, these are all from the Vedas or some other place?
Different traditions. So I've read ones and learned ones that fit, that are from Japanese tradition, from Israeli tradition, definitely from India, a couple of them, but every culture, they're universal. So the story is universal. It isn't. That's the one thing, so much of this, it is so heavily cloaked in Hindu tradition. And there's so many beautiful ways to interpret your relationship to spirit through it. But they're universal principles and teachings, really. The same, just like the idea of a guru. The guru is not a uniquely Indian tradition. Everyone who has ever lived has gurus in their life. It's just whether or not they acknowledge it, recognize it, respect it, and be aware of it, really. So as you've been helped in your life all along. And that's the energy of the Guru manifesting in myriad ways. So,
Kate, you just mentioned mango. So about halfway through the offerings,
yeah,
you put a mango into the fire.
yeah.
And what is the significance?
That's so in terms of mangoes and so forth, Purnima's highlighting that we offer very frequently a mango partway through the offerings into the fire. So mango is like the food, the nourishment in that sense of food that feeds us. So we offer that the gods can partake of it, and that we can be benefited again by the gods reciprocating and making sure that there will be food ongoing. We take and we offer water into it. You might see that we do generally right after. Just a little bit of water put on the fire. So the rain we're reinforcing that relationship and saying, you give us this rain here. We give this rain to you. We want to offer it to you. Share. So those are offered also in the fire. And mango just fits so beautifully in there and looks so nice when they're ripe. But don't get attached. Nobody goes after it once it's in there. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
Is there just a wee story?
A wee story. Let me see. Just a little wee story. We can do a little one. Let's see. I'm going to tell you one. Actually, it's about Babaji. Then, okay, about Dharma. Now, when we first got here, 1978, and just like he was in that early day, he was so energetic. It was unreal. It was just unreal. But every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Saturday, he'd be here. Sunday, he'd be in town at satsang, and we'd be there with him. And when he arrived here on these other days, it's just like the whole place would just vibrate with this energy, this creative energy. And he'd arrive early in the morning, he'd get in that CB there to wait and see everybody, And he'd be like his eyes were like on fire or something. They'd just be so lit up with this energy in him. And so anyway, and he would work with us. He'd teach class, and then he'd go out and build all these rock walls. If you've walked this property and seen, there are rock walls from the upper part of the property down to the lower part. I mean, there must be, Vishwanath, how many miles of walls are there? See? He knows. There's lots, there's so many rock walls here. And so he would go out and literally dig these rocks out of the ground with whoever wanted to spend time with him on that work day. And he'd work all day, then come in and eat and still be, have his dinner before he drove home. Very long days, generally. So, and always just like he was so energized from beginning to end. Now, one day, it was a really stormy time. And this was probably 2 years in. We still had the first old ranch house that used to be there where the CB is. And it was winter time, and it was really cold, and it was very nasty. And Babaji was sick, and we knew, and he had been coming anyway. And so we called up Ma Renu, the one whose home he lived in and who looked after him. And we said, Ma, it's really miserable, stormy weather here. Why don't you tell Babaji he should stay home? And because we can't do anything out there, and anyway, he's sick and needs to rest. And she, okay, I'll go tell him, And so she comes back after a minute and says, he says he's coming. And we go, wow, okay. So we just thought, well, that'd be fun. We'll sit around inside, we'll make a fire and so forth and hang out with him. So he comes, does the class as usual. And then we think, and he's sniffling and so forth. And we think, okay, he'll eat, and then we'll just hang out. This will be fun. And so he finishes eating, goes in the bathroom like he would always go in, and comes out, and he's got on his poncho and his rain boots and everything. And he's like looking at us like, come on, what are you guys doing, And so we go, oh, we're going out? And then, yeah. So we go out and we go all over the property. And he was going up the hill and through the brambles and everything. At one point, he was going up that hill there by the lake, above the lake, and his dhoti was sliding off of him, kind of in the ground behind him. And I remember I gathered it up behind him, and I said, Babaji, your dhoti's coming off here, you know. And he paused, tied it up tighter, then kept going. And he went all over. And after about 2 hours, we came back in the building, and he looked and sounded worse, which he was. But he seemed pleased. And at the end of the day, then he went home. And when he came back the next day, because we were really perplexed, we thought, golly, that was pretty wild, you know. But we realized then that he was going around and he was seeing where the water was flowing, where the water was trapped maybe in springs, and now it was starting to show itself. And it was also showing where, okay, yeah, if we didn't do a rock wall here, obviously we're going to have some erosion problems. So he was seeing all these places that we could reinforce the property and or trap the water and make it benefit us by running it into a lake like this that then got built. You know, so this was one of his big projects that he said, we have to do this, you know. So anyway, he comes to the land the next time, and he was still sick. And Babaji, why did you come that day and go out and get sick? And he said, it is a ritual. And that was the end of the conversation there. And now I'd been getting trained in rituals for a couple of years by then. And I was so blown out by it, and I was going, wow, wait a minute. And I started to put this all together. So his ritual was to come here every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Saturday, teach, then work with us, then play with us, generally also, and then drive home after these, what were sometimes interminably long days, where we'd all be dragging home at the end of it, and he would still go out just kind of, you know, looking pretty chipper. But so his ritual was to commit to that teaching and come and do this with us and build this place. And it was to do it every Tuesday, which is a Hanuman day, every Thursday, Brihaspativar, which is the Guru's day, and every Saturday, which is sacred to Hanumanji, also Saturn day. So those days were his ritual to come and be here. And then Sunday, of course, in satsang. Now, and that was to build this community with us and for us, so that we could, he would serve us in that way, so that we could serve others in that way, so that we could invite whoever was inspired by this river of satsang, because that's what it is. It's just this flow of satsang energy that it was like he was an embodiment of this flow of satsang energy, that of seeking truth. His life was this expression of truth. And you would feel just drawn into it, because that's what we're all wanting. We're wanting to be connected to truth in our lives. We're wanting to be fed in that way, and be in that river of spirit like that. And he was such an embodiment. He is such an embodiment of that. He is present in all these teachings. He is. So that was his dharma. And I put that together over a period of time there, just watching him, because that was 2 years in. And then this went on for years. Okay, from 1978 to 2018, when he left his body. In reality, in 2012, he had a stroke and was out for 4 or 5 months, then was back in action again with us. And then 1 year later, 2013, again, almost to the day, 1 year later, another stroke, and then was unable to come here after that. But otherwise, this ritual of serving that he did was one of the most astounding things I've ever experienced. Seeing him in his 80s up on that mountain, that fountain over there, up where those white rocks are, in his work dhoti, in his apron, and his bandana on his head and his rock hammer, putting those white rocks up there. And I would say, try to climb up there, except that it's not right for you. It's tricky. But he would do that. He got up on the top of this temple and showed us how to sculpt that. Climbed up there on this ladder in his 80s and showing us how to make these things. So he did this in such a tireless way. That's somebody that's so synced in to the spirit of time in both a microcosmic way, putting his mind, body out there, just, inexhaustible energy, and in this higher dharmic way of that's just to show and help to express that possibility of what spirit and being connected to spirit needs to express itself, needs to serve others. Just do it. So that's kind of my take on that anyway. So there's some really interesting stories on these other ones. Sometime it'd be fun to get into them, so we'll do that. And because it's nice to know, oh, I remember that kind of experience in my life, and go, oh, that's a door to liberation. Hey, I'm not so far away. It's not so far away. Yeah, it's just around the corner. I'll show you. I'll show you. No, but anyway, so we will have one of our yagyas tomorrow, and we welcome as many people who can come join virtually to come, and we have a very limited opportunity of having people on the property yet, so there will be limits there. But and there's another talk that was done 1 year ago that's pretty coherent on this whole idea of Guru Purnima and Yagya. Now, it was done by this other fellow that was a 1 year younger version of me. And I was listening to it recently when I tried to think, well, what should I do this year? And I thought, hey, this is pretty good. Let's have that guy do the talk. But anyway, no, but what I'm saying that is just that other stuff is in there that is really a lot more, a much more comprehensive kind of thing that speaks to the scriptures and so forth. Some of the same cast of characters are there, Bob and I having an exchange. And anyway, it's there on YouTube, and I think it's going to be available there if anybody wants to see it. You can just click it, and it's part way through, but you can just scroll to where the talk starts if you're interested, and enjoy that. It's a nice little exploration, highlighting other things. Okay? Pranams. Jai Shri Ram. Thank you. Jai Hanuman. Tomorrow. Jai Gurudev. All right.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah.